Thank you for joining us today. I'm Jackie Clement, CEO and Executive Director of the Fair Media Council. And today's workshop is Establishing Value with the News Media, featuring Jody Fisher from Austin Williams. I will leave it up to Jody to tell you a little bit more about himself before he actually begins the workshop. But we have basically one rule with our workshops, which is we want you to ask your questions. Communication changes all the time and it changes quickly. So we expect you to have questions that basically you can't find the answer to, right? So now's the great time to ask someone who is not only established himself in media relations, but also used to be a radio reporter, so he can look at it from both sides of the fence or the yard or whatever that saying is. And just to give you a little insight into what else is happening here, our next workshop will be in February with Steve Hawley, also giving some tips on media relations. And if by chance you are not a member, these workshops are actually one of the member benefits that we offer, along with many other things. We do hope you will sign up and become a member. If you look at our website, which was just recently redone, so take a look. And you can see we've also expanded member benefits, and pricing is scaled according to size and type. So there's plenty of options that we offer you. And that said, if you have any questions at all, feel free to shoot us an email at info@fairmediacouncil.org. And this workshop series is sponsored by St. Joseph's College, which makes it possible. So with all of that said, Jody, are you ready to go?
So we're here today to talk about establishing value with the news media, and wanted to just level set with a little bit of an agenda here. We'll go through an overview. We'll talk about the state of the media. We'll discuss what is value and talk about methods of delivering value, and of course, leave plenty of time at the end for Q&A. Before we dive into the topic, I wanted to talk a little bit about Austin Williams, the agency that I am a part of. We're based in Hauppauge. Founded in the 90s as a print and direct mail shop, but we've since evolved into a full service digital agency. And I've been in there the last 5 years when we created the in-house public relations function to serve our clients. We are New York State WBE certified, which is very important these days. And our mission is to develop ideas that inspire action. I tend to gravitate toward that philosophy as well. Nothing that we do in terms of public relations, I feel, should end at the hit. The hit is the vehicle to get you to where you want to be. What the reason you get out of bed in the morning, the reason you run your business, the reason you run your nonprofit, and all that media attention that you get from a public relations program should be servicing that mission and that business orientation. Back to our agency, we are fully integrated with in-house services. We do everything except actually print the stuff ourselves. So whether you're looking to create a website, to refresh your brand, to engage in SEO, to buy media, to work in social media, or to do public relations with me, we are your one-stop shop for everything. Our geographic coverage predominantly in the Northeast, but we do reach out to all sectors of the country. I personally have clients up and down the Eastern Seaboard, in addition to one client that's based in Sweden. So we are a truly international firm as well. We also have something that we're very proud of that was created last year called the Austin Williams Diversity Scholarship. We surveyed, as many organizations did last year, surveyed the landscape with the Black Lives Matter movement and what we perceived as the injustices going on in our country. We knew that we needed to do something, but we needed to do something, not just slap a black square on our Instagram page and call it a day. And so the leadership of Austin Williams created the Austin Williams Diversity Scholarship, working with two of our clients, St. Joseph's College in Patchogue and Brooklyn, and Malloy College located in Rockville Center. And we extended scholarships to 2 students, one from each school per year. And we're ramping that program up across 4 years. So right now we've got the first 2 recipients you see there, Adrian and James, and they're terrific young people with a bright future in advertising, marketing, and public relations. And each year, 2 more students will receive an Austin Williams Diversity Scholarship. So once it's fully ramped up, we will be sponsoring and mentoring 8 young up-and-coming advertising, marketing, and public relations students from Long Island who want to pursue a career in the industry. We feel it's our way of giving back. It's our way of making sure that we make positive change in the world and on Long Island to foster the young talent that is coming up through the ranks. A little bit about me. As Jackie mentioned, I'm the Vice President of Public Relations at Austin Williams. I have clients across healthcare, higher ed, financial services. I've also done a lot of work in construction and real estate. Clients are local, national, and international. I've been in public relations since 1999. Worked for the majority of that time with Howard Rubenstein in Manhattan, but also worked in-house at St. John's University, Keyspan, Skanska, several others. And as Jackie mentioned, I was a radio reporter before that. So I try to bring that perspective on everything that I do for my clients. I try to keep that reporter, that editor hat on when we're evaluating public relations programs and when we're deciding what's going to be the best way to serve getting the client's message out. Because if a reporter can't do something with the information you're given to them, it's completely worthless. Before we get into how we deliver value to the media, I thought it would be valuable to talk about the state of the media, where the media is today. As Jackie mentioned, it's always evolving, it's always changing, and boy, it's changing at a mile a minute these days. If you jump in the time machine and go back a few decades, back then, the media was concentrated in big centralized newsrooms. Typically, you had editors and reporters who were on the daily beat, but you also had beat reporters with a depth of knowledge, whatever their subject matter area was. There were distinctly different needs across different mediums, across different media, whether there was, print, newspaper, magazine, broadcast, TV or radio, wire services. And everybody seemed to have different needs. The old example was, well, if you're pitching a radio story, you don't need any pictures, right? Because radio is verbal, radio is not visual. That was then, this is now. Now we've got smaller staffs, we've got remote locations, we've got fewer reporters with more generalized knowledge doing more work. Newsrooms have been decimated. Hedge funds have bought media organizations because of the building that they sit in. They fire the newsroom and they sell the building. There are fewer people doing just as much, if not more work. And so they don't have the luck, and this is not a knock, but they don't have the time, and they typically, especially if they are younger, don't have the experience of having worked in any very specific area. And so it's our job to help educate them. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But now also different media, print, radio, TV, have very similar needs now. Radio needs pictures now because they have a website, because they have social media. TV obviously needs everything. Print needs everything. And so you've got to be thinking about delivering assets when you're talking to the media, because you've got to look forward and see how are they going to deliver this story to their audience. You also have secondary platforms, like we said, social and podcasting, which it seems like everybody has a podcast these days, including me. And we can talk about that a little bit later too. But the idea here is that now there's no siloing anymore in terms of assets. Everybody needs everything. So we need to think about delivering everything to those people. We also have to look at the lens through which we view the media. How do we perceive the job that they're doing? And then we have to ask ourselves, how do I fit into that daily job that they are doing? Whether they're turning around a daily story, whether they're writing a feature for the weekend, whether they're putting something in the can for next month, or maybe a holiday coming up or something like that. We've got to make sure that we are always reverse engineering our stories and our clients' messages into what they do. If we don't do that, we're forcing them to make a decision about whether or not what we're asking them to do fits what they do. And if they have to think too hard about it, they're gone. So we really need to, before we even do any reaching out in the creation phase with our clients, we need to be asking, what's the media's job and how do I fit into their assignment? We also need to be thinking about their audience. And we need to meet the reporter where their audience is. Every media outlet serves a specific audience, whether it's a general audience like a WCBS radio, my alma mater, or whether it's a Newsday or a News 12 or an ABC Nightly News or a Today Show, or you name it. Everybody has their audience, which is why they do the things they do and do them the way they do them, because they're speaking to their audience. So you need to take into account the audience that you want to talk to and then target the media outlets that media outlet talks to. But asking yourself a few of these questions. What's my message? Who do I want to speak to? What do I want their reaction to be? That goes back to the ideas that inspire action. What do we want the reaction of the audience, of the media outlet to be when they hear the thing that we want them to hear? That's really important. I caution people that PR is not a direct line to your cash register, but it should make your phone ring. It should have some kind of an impact on your business operations. And so you want to be evoking reaction. Whenever you tell a story, you want people to have a reaction to it, and then you want them to take an action after that. Then you ask, what outlets and reporters get me to that reaction and action? And how do I work with them to tell the story, my story, the story I want them to tell, that's engaging to their audience? This is putting all the puzzle pieces in place, and it's doing it before you ever write a press release or pick up a phone or talk to a reporter or do an interview. So now we get to what is value. And I think that's how we arrive at what is value. I have frequently said, and I've got into some interesting conversations about this, I have just as much interest in helping the reporter as I do helping the client. And my view is that I have two clients. I have my client that pays me to do a job for them, but I also have the reporter as a client, because it's in my vested interest and my client's vested interest to make sure that the reporter gets what they need to do the story that they want to do, and that I do my level best to make it come out the way I want it to come out. So if you take care of the reporter's needs, you're taking care of the client's needs. I really feel that that's very, very important. You know, some people think that we need to have a very adversarial relationship with media, with reporters. And the great State Department reporter, Richard Valeriani, who was a terrific media trainer, once coined the phrase, you can be friendly with a reporter, but they're not your friend. I've developed lots of friendly relationships with reporters, and I value those relationships. And I've developed those relationships because I have delivered value to them, and they have become friends. But we're always able to switch the switch and do business when we need to do business. And I think that's really important. Delivering value to your client means delivering value to the reporter. So on the one hand, you represent your client and their perspective. That's your job for your client. But your job for the reporter is to give them the information that they need to tell the story that you want them to tell. Your job for the client is to connect them with the media of greatest value to them. But your job for the reporter is appreciating the needs of the reporter and their obligation to their audience. You can't lose sight of that. Your job for the client is counseling them about the most effective ways to reach the audience that they want to reach. But your job for the reporter is to understand how your information and your client's message fits into what they do. So you have a job and you have an obligation to both of these people, both of these groups, to make sure that you're doing your job as best you can. And that's the start of creating value. There are other ways to deliver value. I feel like it all comes down to perspective. You all, as a public relations professional, you must be at all times factual and accurate, because the reporter must be factual and accurate. There is no daylight between facts and what is printed, what is broadcast, what is pushed out to an audience. There is zero daylight. It must be factually accurate. And so we have an obligation as PR people to be factually accurate. We also need to be timely and responsive. We need to work on their deadline. A reporter from Newsday just asked me, I think it was a week ago or so, he emailed me a question and said, "Are you working today?" And my answer to him was, I work when you work. I need to respond to you. When you ask me a question, I can't say, oh, I'm sorry, it's a vacation day, and oh, I'm out, unless I'm truly, out on a beach somewhere. That's a different story. We work at all times of the day, and we should be working at all times of the day because that's when reporters are working. So we need to be timely and responsive. We should also be helpful regardless of the outcome. Sometimes you get that call, you get that email that asks you a question that you may rather not answer or that you'd rather not get involved in. Hiding is never the way to go with a reporter because you can't possibly develop relationships by no commenting all day long or just ignoring the inquiry. You should be helpful with reporters and provide your statement, your story, your perspective, regardless of the outcome. And sometimes it's going to be a bad story. Sometimes it's going to be the thing you didn't want either people to know or you didn't want to get into or talk about. My perspective is that rather be involved in the story and tell your version of it and have that included so that the audience can evaluate who's saying what, then simply be omitted. Now, there are exceptions to that rule, obviously, and they usually always come down to pending litigation. And I am a big fan of if we need to lose the PR war to win the multi-million-dollar lawsuit, well, sometimes you need to take it on the chin. But that's separate and apart from here. We do need to be helpful regardless of outcome with reporters because we need to take a long view. And a former mentor of mine, another coin of phrase that she coined was, it's not about this hit, it's about the next hit. That perspective is about developing relationships. We want to make sure that we are being helpful with reporters, that we are providing information to them, that they are reading our emails, taking our calls, viewing us as someone who is engaged and involved and can help them do their job. Because that is the key to providing value and building long-term relationships with reporters. So there are lots of nitty-gritty ways of delivering value, in my opinion. There's traditional media pitching, right? Kind of what we think of when we think of, hey, we're PR people. We write news releases, we write pitches. They're full of facts and figures. Supplying quotes, supplying the people who do interviews. But we also need to provide context to reporters. Reporters are getting 1,000 emails a day and probably another 1,000 internally from their colleagues just in the course of creating the product that they create. It's really important that when we connect with a reporter, when we send them a release or send them a pitch or we write something up and send it out, we need to give context. We need to provide the why. Why is this important? Why, when I send a news release to a newspaper, why do I think they should think this is important? Now, the subtext is I think this is important because I think their readership needs to know this. The why is never because my client wants to be in the paper. Let's say that loud and clear, right? The why is your audience needs to know this because. If you can answer that question, your audience needs to know this because, you will generally succeed in getting your client's message out. So context really, really important in providing value to reporters and providing value to clients. Timing is the silver bullet because one, stories need to be delivered at the right time. You'd never pitch a Christmas story in April, right? Unless you're pitching, a gift gadget guide or something that goes to print, way early. And that's a completely different story too. But reporters need more time than ever to decide whether or not they're going to write your story or report your story. Turn back the clock a couple of decades, maybe they needed a day or two. And depending on the medium, print, radio, TV, whatever, maybe they needed a day or two to decide on your story. And we're not talking about event-based stuff here. We're talking about feature stories. We're talking about stories that don't necessarily have this is happening today kind of a feature to it. Now, reporters need a week to figure out if they're going to write your story or figure out if they're going to report your story because they're getting so many. because they have to do so much in a day. You know, any typical reporter is not just writing one story a day, they're probably writing 5, and they're supplying information for social media, and they're asking someone for photo or video, or they're sharing photo and video with their photo desk, their video desk. They're doing so much in the background to create the product that is getting pushed out across all of these channels that they need more time to decide on whether or not they're going to do the thing you're asking them to do. So make sure that when you're pitching stories, you don't give a reporter 24 hours notice. Again, unless it's an embargoed thing and it's, you know, we're announcing this on Thursday or whatever. Even then, you can work with reporters to give them information in enough time to decide whether or not they want to write that under embargo, so that they can just push a button on Thursday morning or whatever that is when the story needs to go live. The idea here is, and the clear message is, to deliver value, you need to consider timing in your pitches, in your news, in your messaging from your clients. You need to pay close attention to the timing that you're putting on these projects. And then also delivering value is about the follow through. Don't pitch somebody and then ghost them. If they come back to you with, this is, you know, shouldn't even have to say it out loud, but we will. Don't pitch and ghost. Don't just send some information and hope they write it that way. If they come back with a question, answer that question. Engage with the reporter. Be available when they need you. You know, don't hide and don't be unavailable. You know, we all have phones now. We have phone numbers and we have email addresses and we have 47 messaging apps. Don't not pay attention to the responses that you're getting from the reporters that you have pitched. Make sure that you go back to being helpful, like we said before, and that you're available and you can help them do the job they need to do. Because again, looking at it through that lens, be helpful, help them do the job they need to do to help your story, your client's story, come out the way you want it to come out. We're also, I just wanted to talk about this real quick, overcoming barriers to coverage. We must, as PR people, and I've said this a lot and I say this every opportunity I get, we have to shoot and deliver our own video, period, full stop. We must be more creative with what we're doing. And I've been very, very successful shooting and delivering my own video, again, on my phone, horizontal only. I bought a $20 lavalier microphone, which you'll see in this clip, off of Amazon, and a tripod. And you clip your phone on there and you do interviews and you cut them up and you send them to TV news desks. They will run them. And hopefully if this works right, I can show this to you. Oh, it's not going to work right. Well, that's okay. The point is that this was an event with a client of mine, Helen Keller Services. They did an event. We put out a media advisory. We invited press. It was a very busy day. Nobody showed up. I shot video on my iPhone. I did an interview and I cut it up into B-roll and SOT, sound on tape. A little 10-second, and that's what you see here in this freeze frame, a little 10-second clip of the client talking about the event, and B-roll that I cut up, 30 seconds worth of B-roll that I cut up into a couple quick little shots, put those in a Google folder, sent the link out to all the TV desks. Channel 7 ran it that night and the following morning. If it's shot well, if it's lit well, if the sound is good, they will consider using your information. And the more you send that to TV desks, especially, the more you'll build a reputation for delivering good, solid, usable, broadcast quality video that will help your client get the press they want to get. Because the reality is it's not surprising anymore to have an event and that is not front page news and not have media show up. It is equally unsurprising when I shoot my own video and my own photo and deliver my own information to have every media outlet cover it, even though no one was there. So we must be shooting and delivering our own video and our own photo. That is delivering value to newsrooms because it's just a staffing issue, right? They don't have the manpower that they want. to put the things on their air or in their product that they want to do. So to the degree that you can think like the editor and help them, the better off you will be. Let's see, I might have jumped out of this. There we go. And we also have to think about content creation in the same breath. We talked about photo and video. We got to think about social media. You got to think about, how does this story play on social media? Podcast, including mine, the PR podcast. It's available on Apple, Google, and Spotify. Check us out if you'd like to. We do a weekly show about how the news gets made. And we have guests on every week who talk about that process, whether they're reporters, editors, PR professionals. So please do check us out. But you've got to be thinking about all these different vehicles that you owned. This is owned media, right? Social media, your blog, your website, all that stuff, you control it. It allows you to bypass the media if you need to speak to your audience. You don't have to completely rely on XYZ outlet coming to your event or receiving your pitch and writing your story. You can tell your story yourself. You can be, and this, we used to say this 20 years ago, but it's the truth, just as much now. You are your own newsroom. Function like your own newsroom. Think like a reporter. Act like a reporter. Behave like a reporter. Be your own outlet and share the information that you have with the audiences that you want to get to. They are great as standalone. They're great as complementary to earned media, but you need to be thinking this way. Because it all goes to building your reputation. Delivering valuable content builds your reputation. It positions you as a resource. It positions you as being reliable, sending good factual information like we talked about. Giving media outlets stuff that they can use, stuff that they think that their audiences will enjoy. But sometimes, and I do this on the regular, pitch ideas just for the idea. Sometimes you come up with an interesting idea, right? You're eating breakfast and you read something or you hear something, you're like, well, that's interesting. I think, someone over at XYZ outlet would like that. That would be fun for them, right? And you have no skin in the game. You have no dog in this hunt. And I'll just quickly email them. I'll say, hey, I had this thought. I don't know if you can use this, but here it is. That will help you. Now, don't be a nudge when you're doing it, obviously, and don't do it every day. But every once in a while, it begins to build a reputation with reporters and editors and people who are making those decisions all day long. And sometimes it pans out and sometimes it doesn't, but it positions you as someone of value. And of course, be friendly but professional. Going back to the whole, the media, you can be friendly with the media, but they're not your friend. Sometimes they turn into friends, but always be friendly and professional when you're working with the media, because they still have a job to do. And they're not allowed to completely put aside their job if you tell them something that deserves to be in their outlet, that they feel they are obligated to report. They need to turn that professional thing back on. So you need to be professional with them. That's it from me. I'm going to shut my mouth now and open things up to Q&A and Jackie.
Thank you, Jody. You covered a lot very quickly. I think one of the questions that came to my mind, though, if you can just give me top of mind, maybe some of the most common mistakes people make when dealing with news media. So a couple of tips on things not to do.
A couple of things not to do. There are a ton, let me see. One, I think there used to be the old thing, it's like the resume, don't make the resume go more than one page. I think you don't worry about the length of your pitch. Now I'm going to qualify this immediately. Don't worry about the length of things because everything is digital, right? And if you're delivering good information, you don't have to artificially cut off your pitch or cut off your news release because you think you're going long. Deliver the pertinent information the first time. Don't make the reporter think about what your story is. Answer all those questions right up front. I think the little tips and tools, I try to not put attachments in emails because depending on the email server, they might bounce back. Some email servers might be programmed to not accept attachments. So I try to do everything with hyperlinks and text. I try to not even, attach the news release. I try to copy and paste the news release into the body. Little things like that. But I think the worst thing that people can do is not deliver enough information the first time, and not deliver, like I said in the presentation, the context for the information, because I think that's really important.
Okay, we have a question here from someone in the audience. Is there a particular format for video that reporters prefer?
Format in terms of iPhone, whatever iPhone shoots, I think that's a .mov file. I'm not exactly sure what the attachment name is there, but when I shoot on my iPhone, I'll tell you what I do is I shoot it on my iPhone, I import it into iMovie on my Mac, and I cut it there. So, and then I export it back out as a file. So whatever way iMovie exports it out, they're using that file type.
Okay. How about this one? When you have a feel-good story go viral globally, what are the next steps for a business to run with, especially if the story goes beyond the region of the target audience or market?
That's great. First of all, you do your happy dance. That's terrific. That's awesome. I got a feel-good story that goes viral globally. Let's see. Well, first you want to merchandise it. You want to make sure that you push it directly to your audiences. You can't just assume because it's viral that everyone's seen it, and that's a crazy statement to even make out loud. But you want to make sure that 100 million views and counting, that's awesome. Oh, you have to please put the URL in there or something. We want to share this. I want to see it myself. I would say merchandise it to your audiences first. Make sure that you've pushed it. Make sure that you're pushing it out to your audiences on your social media, in your in your newsletter or blast, wherever it belongs, right? Put it in all those places. Merchandise it to your board, your leadership, your stakeholders. Make sure they get a specific, they don't get like hopefully they see the social media push, like push it straight to your board, push it straight to your leadership, push it straight to the people who have a role in your business functioning. Because that's really important too, because then they're going to share, they're going to feel good. It's the old, leaving the magazine article on the coffee table kind of thing where everybody can see it. Do that. I think that's a great start, is just to make sure there's the original story. We'll look at it later. Thank you for sharing that, and good luck. I would say that, let me see, feel the story, what are the next steps of business to run with? You also want to think about, how do I convert this into more business? And I don't know the answer to the specific question, but be thinking about, how do we turn this into more business? How do we do with this something that is going to expand our reach? And again, I'm thinking about audiences as I'm doing this in real time. Thinking about audiences to push it to, and how could they use that information to then go and take an action to support you in your business. But congratulations.
One of the things we saw recently, Jody, and by recently, I mean probably in the last decade or so, is a lot of businesses feeling, because they can use social media, they don't need media relations. Okay. Can you basically explain the difference in terms of a branding or marketing, or even a credibility, from a credibility standpoint, of the difference between how a social media posting is perceived versus being covered in the news?
Sure. Well, being covered in earned media, what we refer to as, any kind of news, print, radio, TV, even online, digital, wires, any kind of news. When a reporter writes a story about you, that's news, right? That is third-party endorsement. And it's the old joke about, the difference between marketing and public relations. Marketing is telling everybody you're terrific. PR is everybody else telling everybody you're terrific. So it's the third-party endorsement. It's kind of like the restaurant review or the movie review. Someone you trust says this thing is great. It's then, oh God, it must be great. It has greater value. Social media, you can push all day and bang your chest and say, wow, I'm terrific. Look at this, look at that. And it's wonderful. It's complimentary and it needs to happen. But to me, there's no greater, gold medal than having a terrific article written in a newspaper, broadcast on TV or the radio or whatever, where a reporter or an outlet has written a story about you, has reported a story about you, and said, "You're awesome. You're doing a great job."